Before the world starts spinning fast, I pause and take my stand. Coffee in hand, I lace up truth with heaven's battle plan. No fear, no doubt, I suit up strong, his armor fits just right. I'm walking tall, I'm prayed up now, I'm ready for the fight. Surrounding in truth, no lies allowed, I walk this road with my head unbowed. No fake disguise, no twisted words, just gospel truth, pure and undisturbed. Oh God, my morning song is mine, I move along. Shield of faith and sword in hand, is our I stand. Truth on my ways, peace on my feet, victory is mine, I won't retreat. Guard my heart, Lord, keep it clean, your righteousness my daily sheen. No shame, no guilt, no hidden stain, I wear your grace like a holy chain. Our God, my morning song is mine, I move along. Shield of faith and sword in hand, is our I stand. Truth on the ways, peace on my feet, victory's mine, I won't retreat. Bruce lays hot with peace I bring, good news echoes when I sing. I step with calm through storm and flame, each stride I take I lift your name. Our God, my morning song is mine, I move along. Shield of faith and sword in hand, is our I stand. Truth on my ways, peace on my feet, victory's mine, I won't retreat. Mind renewed, no fear inside, salvation's found my holy God. Thoughts align with heaven's view, I see the world through what is true. Our God, my morning song is mine, I move along. Shield of faith and sword in hand, is our I stand. Truth on my ways, peace on my feet, victory's mine, I won't retreat. Word in hand, I speak with fire, sharper than steel, it lifts me high. No weapon formed can take me down. I fight with faith, I wear the crown. Our God, my morning song is mine, I move along. Shield of faith and sword in hand, is our I stand. Truth on my ways, peace on my feet, victory's mine, I won't retreat. So here I stand, the day begun, armored up till setting sun. With every breath I walk His way, in truth and love I face the day.
Good morning. I decided to go a little bit later for some of our viewers on the West Coast. And I was thinking heavily about doing this live stream last night. I really wanted to, but I figured I'd sleep on it. I think I'm getting a little bit of a head cold. I got a little bit of a nasal drip going on here, so if you see me rubbing my nose, it's not cocaine, I promise. Man, where do we start? I have been not doing any live streams all last week. I just had a super lot of things going on that needed 100% of my attention, and I think I'm getting through all that. Things are kind of looking up, I guess. But in the meantime, though, in the evenings, I take some time and I go watch certain things. I check what's going on in in the news, and then I woke up this morning. Well, it might have even been late last night where I first started hearing about it, about the massacre going on in Australia. Then there was another shooting, I guess, here in the United States, near some campus. Just so much stuff that was coming in this morning. It's kind of hard to keep up with it. Let's see. Yeah, it was. So yeah, I'm hoping here that we can spark some conversation. I suppose I could even kind of go into Rush Limbaugh mode for a few hours. I think this was going to be a little bit longer stream today, just because there's a lot to cover. Yeah, I'm kind of looking. I don't. I think the other reason too I didn't get on. I don't know if any of you noticed, but I got put in X jail last week. For 7 days, I couldn't post or do anything on X. All because I told the truth about something. But that's neither here nor there. But it does have something to do with what we're going to be talking about today. Man, so much stuff. Crazy. So I don't even think this is AI. I just did a quick search on like Somalia. Tim Walz was doing some kind of a live stream a while ago. I think this was back around the beginning of December, maybe the end of November, and he's in his office and he replaces the Minnesota flag with a Somali flag. So I don't know, that to me that's kind of a sign. We have so many infiltrators in our government right now. We have so many dual citizenship people that are in our politics. We've got traitors galore. So what? I think y'all know where I'm getting at here. I'm trying to be careful here because I'm also streaming on YouTube. I actually don't want to lose my YouTube channel due to something that I might have said or insinuated, like what happened on X, which I never thought would happen. Funny thing is 15 minutes after my post, there was another post similar to mine that Elon Musk even reposted and said, yeah. It wasn't mine, but it was another one that was similar, and Elon says, yeah. And then I closed out of X for a little while, came back, and I got the thing like to prove I was a human. Tried to log back in, and it said, your account is, basically I was in X jail. So I couldn't post, I couldn't do anything. It said that I could do DMs with followers, but I couldn't even do that. I tried to DM a few friends that we follow back and forth in my DMs, kind of hung up there. So anyway, I'm bouncing all over. So the gist of this, okay, first let me just start with this because I want to get it out of the way. There is a lot of infighting out there with MAGA influencers. It's got to stop, because if you look at what's going on. Say just using X for example, because that's where everybody from all sides can go. I don't think there's too many left wingers that are actually going out on Truth Social and posting. That's kind of, in my opinion, a bit of an echo chamber. But on X, you get it. You know, you're getting everything from every direction, and I see influencers out there arguing with each other about the whole Charlie Kirk, Candace Owens, Erica Kirk, the Ian, and all of the big influencers out there. They're arguing with each other, and the funny thing is you don't see anybody on the left jumping in and putting any comments in on the things that they're posting out there. What I do see going on is on websites like Midas Touch and a few of the other liberal places, CNN and some of the others, they're putting probably anywhere from 30 to 50 videos out a day. They're basically short clips attacking Trump, attacking people in Trump's administration, but there's not a single mention of how MAGA is pretty much eating itself from within, about them attacking each other. And why would they? I mean, I think some of them maybe picked up the Art of War and decided to read it and learn from it, and they're basically taking the stance of why interrupt an enemy when they're destroying themselves. And that's what's happening. MAGA's out there fighting with each other right now instead of focusing on the task at hand, and that's saving our country. Some of this petty infighting BS, it's gone a little bit too far. I've basically removed myself from anything to do with the Candace Owens, Erica Kirk, TPUSA stuff, with the exception of I did put some reposts about some things looking into actual with TPUSA and with some possible issues with some money laundering going on there. The thing is my X account doesn't get very many people looking at it. I look at my analytics, and I'm lucky if I get three views a day. Even when I was premium, that's why I said, why am I paying premium when it's not helping me get any more throughput out there? Nobody's seeing me. So anyway, so here we have MAGA infighting, fighting with each other when we should be focusing on saving our country. And then we have some other big name influencers out there, and even some alternative, supposedly MAGA news media that are putting out these diatribes on all their information is correct about how this is all going on. We have the evidence for this and for this and for this and multiple different things, but there haven't been any arrests. Okay. I think they forget that there are things happening in the background that we aren't privy to, that are it's happening. And you know, I believe it is. So you know, I'm being watchful. I'm paying attention to what's going on. But I see a lot of people jump into a conclusion and freaking out right away and putting stuff up and fighting with each other, and it's pretty stupid. But now these influencers in these I want to call them like right wing or MAGA type news outlets that are, these people are talking about all this stuff. we have the proof for this and this and this and this. Why are there no arrests? And then at the very end, it's like, well, you know, with all this going on, why should we even vote? And I was like, I was following along with everything that he was saying until the very end when they said, why should we even vote? The quick answer to that is because if we don't go out there and exercise our right to vote, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, it doesn't matter. Getting out there and getting your vote in. And I'm going to also say, for those people that say, yeah, but the elections are rigged, why should we vote in a rigged election? Because basically by us doing that, we're giving the okay for them to do rigged elections. Wrong. If everybody remembers back to 2016, they were trying to rig the vote, but nobody knew that the vote was rigged in 2016. But enough people got out there, an overwhelming amount of people that got out there and voted, and they overwhelmed their algorithm to steal the vote. Okay, but then it came out for the 2020 vote that they were talking about rigged elections. And we just have to get out there and vote. We gotta get out there and override their algorithm and override what they're trying to do. Okay, just to give you an example, okay, I'm just going to use New York. I'm not even going to talk about the other places that nobody showed up to vote. New York only had 12% of Republican voters show up to vote, and Mamdani won that. Okay? 12% of Republicans got off their ass and voted. What happened to the rest of them? They gave up. Don't be lazy. Get out there and fight for your country, people. You were given the right to vote. Go vote. There's 100,000 dead Democrats out there voting. What are you going to do? Are you going to get out there and make your vote count to override that vote? I think you need to. Real quick shout out to I-70. I miss Kilroy too, brother. I miss her too. She was a good friend. So, all right. So don't listen to these influencers telling you not to vote because it's a rigged election. It's bullshit. Go out there and vote. We gotta override the algorithm. We gotta get our percentages up. Okay? And also, you know, have a little bit of faith that we've got people in the background that are watching to make sure that this stuff doesn't happen. I think this little special vote that we just recently had with New York and Virginia and a couple other places, they let that ride as a reminder to everybody out there that you need to get out and vote. When you only got 12% of your party going out to vote, that's a problem. It's a big problem. So, to quote Ben Dykes last night that fired me up, get off your lazy ass and go fucking vote. And that's all I'm going to say on that. Okay? Now, moving on. I was talking about Somalia earlier. I want to say it's a small piece, but it's not. When it comes to the money portion of what's going on with all of the Somali, the focus is Minnesota, but they're all over on the East Coast too. They're everywhere. But the funny thing is, and like I mentioned about Tim Walz putting up the Somalia flag instead of the Minnesota flag, that is a disgrace, and the people of Minnesota should be very pissed off about this. Tampon Tim needs to go. And he needs to go along with every single Somali that is in Minnesota. Because I guarantee you They're saying that there's like, I want to say there was a number like 27 or 28% of them were here illegally. I want to say that I think the number is much higher than that. It's done playing with conservative numbers and talk about what's really going on. There are over 100,000, well, they're saying between 80 and 100,000 Somalis in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area alone. And with numbers like that, that could easily overwhelm lazy Republicans going out and voting. Now, couple that with the other states where they had a large influx of Somalis put in, I believe like Vermont and New Hampshire. There's a few other East Coast states down in the South that are, and it's. I just want to tell you, it's not just the Somalis, okay. During the Biden-Harris era, they were initially stating that there were like 17 to 18 million illegals that came in across the border. Just the other day, Tom Homan came out and said that the number is upwards of like 40 million. So think about that. A couple of years ago when they did the census, they were saying we had somewhere in the area of like 350 million people in the United States. Okay, so I don't know what the census is now, if the census is 390 million because of 40 million illegals, or do we have 310 million people in the United States with these supposed 40 million illegals? Now, I'm going to dig a little bit deeper. There are approximately 18,000 Muslim extremists that also came into the country. We've been being warned by people that we initially thought were bad guys that came across, but they came across to show how easy it was to get across during that time. One of them, I'm trying to remember if it, Roydy, I see that you're out there. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't remember if it was JT or if it was Oreo Express that was out there on the border, and they confronted the guy and they asked him who he was, and he said, "You all will find out who I am." It turns out months later, he was on Fox News being interviewed, and he was warning Americans about the influx of Muslim jihadis that were coming into the United States. And that's on top of what we already had here, okay? If we look at what's going on in Plano, Texas right now, Texans aren't taking shit right now. They're pretty pissed off, and they're protesting in Plano, Texas as we speak. Just a couple of weeks ago, they were up in Dearborn, Michigan, which I believe still has the highest influx for a town of Muslim occupants in a city, in Dearborn, okay? And we also remember just recently, at the end of October, going into November, there have been a few arrests up there of people that were planning to do some terrorist attacks in the United States. Okay, now let's go back. We take the population that was already here. So Dearborn was close to 60%. I don't know what the percentage is for Plano, but it's pretty high. I was just watching a video this morning of all of the new housing areas that just came up in these suburbs of houses that haven't even been filled yet, but the ones that have are predominantly Muslim inhabitants in these new suburbs that are coming up just outside of Plano and other places in Texas. So we're kind of in dire straits, okay? I think there's so many people that are still asleep or being complacent, and we've been being warned for a long time by Sarah Adams, who, if for those of you that don't know Sarah, she was a CIA analyst. She was actually one of the female CI analysts that was on site during Benghazi when the Benghazi incident went down. She was there. Okay. She's very knowledgeable, and from information that I've been getting, I've watched her and listened to her information that she gave on her numerous appearances on the Sean Ryan show. She also appeared with an Afghan American who is working undercover right now in Afghanistan, but he's an American. And he's been giving information on what's going on with the Taliban and with their relationship with Al Qaeda, even with Bin Laden's son, who they were touting that he was killed, but he's not. Bin Laden's son is alive and well, and they are planning attacks here in the United States. Okay. So Sarah's been warning about that. Legend's been warning about it. I think Alpha X or Aphex. I'm trying to remember the name. They've been putting some information out. You can look at some of my past videos here, either on YouTube, BitChute, or Rumble, where I actually showed and went into a very long description, about an hour long, about that threat. So you look at the people that were here already, plus what they estimate was about another 18 to 19,000 just Muslim jihadists alone that came across the border. That doesn't account for Chinese. It doesn't account for what they're saying right now is quite possibly Ukrainians that are they're the Azov brigade. These are the Nazis, if I can say that word, or not Nazi. But that's who these people are. And there's also information out that quite possibly that ship that was stopped and boarded by the United States military just off the coast of Venezuela. Lots of rumors and stuff, but one of the things that they were saying is it's quite possibly there were a group of, I don't know how many there, and again, this is all speculation, but I think it should be said. It's a wake-up call. Okay, this is the stuff that's going to happen, but it's quite possibly Azov Brigade people that were trained by UK, probably some UK Special Forces or MI6, MI5 derivative, to come over here and wreak havoc in the United States. Plus, with the we already know through some intel sources that we know that Ukraine has been building lots and lots and lots of drones, and believe it or not, they were getting some spare parts for their drones from Iran and from China, and China is who's supplying Russia. So we're looking at a war machine going on here. But these drones were being sent over, and the cartels now have them. The cartels were actually going over to Ukraine to learn how to fly these drones and how to use them, and now they're talking about flying these drones across the Gulf of America and hitting in the Louisiana area where we have some of our fuel reserves. They're talking about using these drones to hit our fuel reserves and take that out there. Unfortunately for them, I used a little bit of critical thinking here, and I know how President Trump's been talking about the Golden Dome. I know what we have as far as technology that can be used against these drones. Even the drones that are like the fly-by-wire, that they use the fiber optics, those are easily disabled. They weren't so much because they didn't have the technology to do it over in Ukraine, but we do have it. And if you all recollect on the Lahaina fires, the Palisades fires, the fires in Peru, and what was used. These are like these DEW weapons. They're basically lasers. And these lasers don't have to target the drones individually. They can run a laser around the drone swarm and cut any fiber optics, and then they use an EMP pulse, and that's what was happening to the drones initially in Ukraine, that Russia was using to stop some of their drones, is using EMP pulse, but then they went to using the fiber optics, and then the EMP stuff didn't have any effect on them. But with the technology that we have, they're easily taken out. I'm not saying that we're going to get them all, but I'm also saying that I think we have some protection. So, I just want to make people aware that I'm not just talking hokey here. I'm not talking sci-fi. I'm getting information from legitimate places. But then again, even that legitimate information, I can't say is 100% because nobody knows. I mean, hell, for all we know, we probably have some kind of a force field like they used around the USS Enterprise in Star Trek to stop the photon missiles from coming in. Maybe we have something like that, and we can expand it out. Who knows? Who knows what Space Force is doing? I don't know. I do know that we've got technology that is hundreds of years in advance of what everybody knows. They've been talking about that for a long time. I'm not really worried about missiles and drones and things like that coming from the outside. What I am worried about is for what's already here under the dome internally. My concern is lessened to a degree because I know that at least since back on in April 1st, probably even before that, we have top tier 1 operators that have been deployed into the cities all over the country. The only ones that they're letting us know about right now are the National Guard, because they'll think that the National Guard isn't trained up enough. But I can tell you that these National Guard were also activated early on and were all trained in all of that subterranean warfare stuff. Okay, so these guys have training. But you'll say, oh, well, what about the 2 people that got shot in D.C.? There isn't much you can say. It was an ambush. They weren't suspecting anything. I don't know, but for the people out there that are blaming Trump for putting them in harm's way, and that's why the female National Guard is dead, for them to say something like that, I think is complete crap. They put on the uniform. Okay, it was their choice. So they were there doing their job by their choice. They weren't conscripted off the street and taken prisoner and pushed into the meat grinder like what they're doing in Ukraine right now. Okay. All right. So we got Roydy, we got I-70 show. I-70, I haven't seen you in a while. It's good to see you. Thanks for coming in, bro. Hope you're still out there. It'd be cool to get more people in here. I would like to have some discussion and watch the chat come in, and anybody's got any questions on anything that I'm thinking about or anything that I might have researched, I'll tell you whether I know something about it or if I don't. I don't just sit around and stare at the walls during the day. So let's get back over to the topic at hand. So again, back on those that were already here, the other 18 to 19,000 jihadists only that came across the border, not including any Chinese, any cartel gang members that have come across. It seemed like the interesting thing was there was a lot of spotlight put on like Tren de Agua and MS-13 for quite a while, but I'm kind of thinking that most of them have already been picked up. If you all have been paying attention to who ICE has been picking up, and a lot of people crying and whining, saying, "Oh, they were never in trouble. They never broke the law, yada yada." Well, they broke the law when they came across the border illegally. End of story. They're criminals. Okay, because they decided to stay, and then they're even more criminal now because they're plotting and scheming to do things against the American people. But ICE has been grabbing people in LA and Chicago, Memphis, all over the place, okay? And most of those people that they say were law-abiding citizens were not. They were gang members. Okay? So a lot of the ringleaders are like the main players that they could get they're getting. For the higher level, these Muslim jihadists, I think that's where the tier 1 people are playing that. So ICE and Border Patrol are taking care of the cartels, but I think our tier 1 special operators are the ones that are, and our Marine Corps are the ones that are tasked with doing the intelligence gathering and finding out who's who in the jihadi realm of things, and they're already in place. If you all were paying attention a couple of months ago, they talked about, initially they were talking 14, then it went to 17. I don't know if they used 17 because of the letter 17, that this was like a sign. But there are 14, let's put it this way, there's 14 to 17 cities in the United States that have active Marine Corps and Tier 1 operators working undercover right now, doing intel and watching these people, and they're ready, if they haven't already, been taking some of them out in the dead of night. So, anyway, Green Eyes, hey, how are ya? Seeing a few more people coming in. I think I'm gonna, for the most part, try. I might be starting a new job. I'm not sure yet. It's at a pretty reputable company, but it's in manufacturing. I don't know what part I will play in that, what job I will have, but that might be the only other thing that might keep me away from doing morning coffee. I'm not going to do it at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning anymore. I think I'm going to do them around 11 in the morning or so. And I probably won't do them every day. Unless I have like some, depending on what my schedule is. But anyway, I digress. So what I want people to do is just be aware. Just know that there are these things that are going on that are in play, and I always go back to these, that letter, the 17th letter, and go back to those drops. And I keep in mind where they talk about that we're safe, POTUS is safe. They're doing things to minimize innocent civilian casualties. So I think a lot of things are happening right now, quietly in the dark. I've seen a few people posting here and there about hearing helicopters and things like that going at night, but they can't see anything. They can fly blacked out. They don't have to have their little blinky green and red lights going on. We're talking military operations in the cities and some suburbs. But I think it's actually happening. Things are happening. But now, why am I doing this today? When I find out information, I have to stew on it for a while. And then over the last few days, while I've been stewing on this, I start seeing things happen. So we have a university shooting. We've got congressmen coming out pleading for the National Guard to come to Savannah, Georgia. And then in the past 24 hours or less, we had I'll call it a massacre in Australia. I think right now at least 10 people killed and around 60 people injured, some in critical condition, by Muslim extremists. My question is how in the hell did they get guns in Australia, who they've outlawed guns now for how many years? There's a lot of I was actually before I came live, I was listening to a group on X that were kind of doing a talk session, and there was quite a mix in there. There were people from Israel. There were a lot of Americans. There were a few Aussies in there, some New Zealanders, and they were all piping up about what was going on, and it was kind of a mix. But the one guy that really got my attention, I believe he lives in, or at least used to live in Beirut, Lebanon. He's Lebanese, but he is in America. He's an American Christian, and he was dropping the F-bomb about how people need to start waking up to what's actually going on. And he said straight up, he said, this isn't like a false flag with Israel trying to do something to make us go against Islam. He said this is actual Islamist extremism, and they're in place right now to start doing what they're doing, and people need to wake up. He said he can tell the difference between whether it was a false flag or whether it was a real thing. He was actually in the Lebanese army back in the day when he was like in his early to mid 20s, and he said by the time he turned 30, that's where he started seeing, and it hit him hard on the deception that Islam itself is. And he quit Islam, and he converted and became a Christian. So we there's a lot of people like this guy out that are trying to trying to wake people up and make them aware of what's going on. So anybody out there have any comments on anything? Anything to say on what we talked about? I kind of wanted to make this go a little bit longer than my normal morning coffee. If there's any questions, any comments, I'll put it out there. I'll give it a minute. Normally I would be putting bookmarks and all that other stuff up, but most of this stuff, I didn't need it to remember what I wanted to talk about today. The important things are to have people be aware of their surroundings and what's going on. The other thing is don't listen to these influencers that are infighting within MAGA, and especially don't listen to the ones telling you what good is it to go vote because they're not doing anything. Would you rather have rhinos in there that we might be able to do something with, or would you rather have like the Kamala Harris and the Tim Walzes in there, and then we're landlocked and we're done forever? I swear to you, if we ever get a Democrat majority again, which I don't think we will, I think the Democrat Party is on its way out. It's a dead party. People are waking up to it. But I also think that the Republican Party is also going to be a dead party, because we see right now there's 47 Republicans that have announced that they're not going to run for office again on the next election. And just the other day we had 14 Republicans vote against a bill that would keep $40 million a week from going to the Taliban. 14 Republicans voted against it. They want to keep the money going to the Taliban. So was it all just Biden that was all part of the crazy pullout in Afghanistan? I don't think so. I think it was some of our Republicans that are actually Democrats. Or maybe it's not even parties anymore. It's we have evil that's infiltrated both parties. You know, people call it the uniparty. I don't think it's that. I'm going back to where we're fighting good versus evil. And these people, they don't care. They're making all this money. They feel that they can go live in a certain place with all this money that they're making, and they can live high on the hog. But little do they know that once they let evil set in and we're all taken care of, guess who's next? There's nothing to save them. They're done too. They're selling out to the devil. That's all I got to say on that. All right. Well, I am not seeing any questions, no comments. So I think I'm probably going to end this. I got my main points across that I wanted to talk about. Make sure you get out there and vote. Don't be lazy. And like I did earlier, I quoted Ben Dykes. Get off your lazy ass and go fucking vote. Don't listen to influencers telling you that it's not worth voting or why vote in a rigged election. Because nobody knew 2016 was rigged, but there were enough people that went out and voted for Trump that we broke their algorithm. We can do it again every single time, but when it gets to the point where they have to do too much to rig it, then it becomes very obvious. It's already obvious. We already know. So just get out there and vote. It's your God-given right. It's your right as an American citizen to vote. I mean, for crying out loud, like I said, 100,000 dead Democrats are voting. Why wouldn't you get out there and let your vote offset theirs at least? We need more than a 12% part of the Republican populace to show up to vote. We need 80 to 100%. Get out there and do it. All right, everybody. I'm going to call it for now. I don't know for sure if I'm going to be able to get on next week to do any streaming. I will try, but if I do, it's going to be later in the day. I seriously do have a lot of things going on. My plate, it overfloweth. But it's all good stuff. There's nothing bad on the overflowing plate. It's all good. So once things come to fruition, I will put it out there, but I'm not going to jinx myself. I'm not going to do anything to ruin what's about to happen. So be safe. These next couple of days are crucial. Oh, okay. Gregorian calendar, Julian calendar. Okay, we were in the Julian calendar until they switched us over to Gregorian. When they did that, they disappeared 10 days on us. Okay? So, in reality, if we take, today is December 14th, and we take those 10 days, we're actually December 4th right now. Okay? Or if we add the 10 days back, I'm sorry, we're actually on Christmas Eve. Okay, so there is some kind of mathematical prophecy out there about some things happening over the next 3 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Okay, so in closing, as I always say, head on a swivel, be aware of your surroundings. There's going to be probably some really bad stuff happen on Monday going into Tuesday, but once that's all over, I think we're going to be back into the good again. I don't know. There's been talk about like some cataclysmic stuff, like volcanoes, calderas. I don't know. I'm not looking at that. I'm just saying a lot of people talking about those 3 dates. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the 15th, 16th, and 17th of December on our current calendar. Head on a swivel. Be aware of your surroundings. It doesn't matter if you live in the big city, the suburbs, or the boontoolies like me. You never know what you're going to run across, people. Be safe out there, and God bless every single one of you out there on the other side of the screen. We'll see you next time. Take care.